Season 3 of From has just returned to our screens, and what a shocking ending that first episode had. With the town now being in a position like it's not really been in before, with the people starting to turn on one another, and division looking like it's going to be at the heart due to the soil being poisoned and supplies being something that are running low. Surviving the creatures of the night was now only one of many issues that they were facing. With Tabitha also waking up in Maine and it picking up seconds after the Season 2 finale, let's delve right into the episode and break down all that there was to take away from it. Here is From Season 3 Episode 1, Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The Ending Explained. One of the main things that was at the center of this episode was the fact that the town was in a position where it was struggling due to the supplies and resources being low. The soil had been poisoned, which meant that all of the crops that they'd been relying on getting harvested were rotten, and they were facing a food shortage. Obviously, that set panic amongst everybody there, and it led Tian-Chen's house to be stormed because she had some supplies in the basement. As well as that, it put a reliance on the livestock that they had, in the sense that it was the only meat that they had available to them, but at the same time, the animals were also being viewed as a resource because they provided milk and eggs too, so they couldn't all just be slaughtered for meat. This panic and fear that was present amongst the residents was something that we saw the monsters leaning into, and they utilized it as a weapon in the closing moments of the episode where an ambush occurred. They almost showed a smarter side to them and deliberately exploited the fact that they knew that the people there were relying on these animals. So they released them and let them walk the streets, which meant that Boyd, Jade, and Tian-Chen were rounding them up in the middle of the street during the night. It was a tactical move from them, and the logical thinking was something that was quite surprising. However, it showed a different strength. They almost knew that they'd head into the barn and lock themselves in there, even with a talisman present, but there were some creatures already in there, and they waited patiently and then pounced. Ethan coming to the realization that Alma the goat, which he loved, was most likely going to be killed in order for the people to survive, it spared on a piece of dialogue between himself and Boyd, which was, can you make sure Alma goes first, because that way she won't have to watch her friends die. So he was almost looking at it in a merciful way, highlighting that dying first and not watching the people you love go is a better way out. This dialogue actually had some importance, and it foreshadowed the closing moments of the episode where we saw Boyd being tied up and restrained and asking the cowboy creature to kill him, but to let Tian-Chen go. Something that the creature didn't do because he knew that Boyd having to watch the people that he cared about being killed and dying was far more painful than him just being put out of his misery. As the creature even said, that would be too easy. He mentioned how Boyd said that he would never be broken, and the creatures were leaning into that and showing him that they were going to do all that they could to make sure that he does get broken, even if that meant killing all of the people that he felt responsible for in the town and leaving him alive. It's dark, and it was a really haunting way for the ending of the episode to go. Just hearing the screams and getting the close-up of Boyd looking at her and trying to get her to stay calm and telling her that she was so strong. It was a really sad moment, and a moment that showed that the creatures are taking a different approach this time round. Kenny mentioned in the early part of the episode how he knew what it was like to lose a parent, and he didn't want Ethan and Julie to go through that experience, hence why he went off with Jim. With him being in the forest with Jim during this episode, when he returns he's going to be completely broken. And there might even be a sense of guilt inside of him due to the fact that he wasn't there when his mother died, something that could send the character on a spiral and ultimately change his direction slightly. With regards to Jim and Kenny, Jim wanted to go out into the forest and look for the tower, as that's where he knew that Tabitha's last location was. Whilst they were out there in the forest, they didn't see the spiderwebs that Boyd told them about, the very thing that was symbolic of them heading in the right direction. Instead, they found a set of huts that were there and these strange statues that we didn't find out the true meaning of. But with them choosing to stay in one of the strange huts, they heard some rustling outside during the night and also some banging on the wall. Following the noise that occurred, Jim came to the realization that Tabitha most likely wouldn't have wanted him to have left Ethan and Julie at home on their own in order to find her, as if something were to happen to him, then they'd be left on their own and have nothing. When Jim and Kenny go back to the town and find out about what happened, that will most likely change Jim's approach moving forward even more, because he could have lost them that night. The ending of the Season 2 finale was focused on Tabitha being pushed out of the window of the tower, following the boy in white saying to her, "This is the only way." When this new season opened up, we saw that she was in a hospital in Maine and had found a way out. It was said that she was found on the side of a trail by some hikers and she'd been unconscious for a couple of days. She was going through a lot of emotions because she was now safe, but she was without her family and had no way of reaching out to them or finding a way of rescuing them. The only thing that she had was the lunchbox that Victor gave her, and when she looked inside of it, she found the address to Victor's home when he was younger. When she followed the address, she was met with Victor's father, who was intrigued to find out how she had the lunchbox of his son from over 30 years ago. I think Tabby's story is about to get really interesting. When she was on the phone to her mother, it was mentioned that the police were looking for her and her family, and that a detective had given her mother his card with his number on. With Tabby now appearing and being safe and well, and there being no trace of Jim, Ethan, or Julie, I wonder if she's going to be taken in as a suspect for the disappearance of her family. She's most probably going to sound crazy if she tells them the actual truth, and they probably won't believe her. So I feel she's going to be facing an uphill battle in trying to prove her innocence in this season of the show, especially when the authorities get close to her. Let's remember though, she did see the boy in white waving at her when she was on the street, so she's not rid of it completely. Could this be another layer that she's got herself stuck in? My review of the episode. I thought this was a really great start to the season. I thought it had everything in it. It built upon the season 2 finale as if we'd never left the show, and each arc within the episode had enough meat on the bones to really allow us to dig into it. The environment and atmosphere being tense due to the resources being low and the cold winter being on the horizon was a mood that was ever present, and it feels like it's only going to get worse. As when people start to get more and more desperate, they start acting irrationally and doing things that they wouldn't usually do. We think we saw panic and fear in this first episode, but I reckon it's going to get even worse as the episodes go on. The monsters were just as haunting as we'd seen before. Seeing their non-human form for an elongated period of time was so creepy. The shriek that they emitted and the sheer power that they have is just chilling. When the cow was slashed, that was a moment that I didn't expect, and it was brutal to watch. The final scene was definitely the standout moment in the episode. It was a scene that was actually quite emotional to watch, and you could feel the pain that not only Tian-Chen was going through, but also the responsibility that Boyd felt. He carries the weight of the town on his shoulders, and with her being killed like that and it being deliberately done to make him suffer, it was absolutely brutal, and something that will probably be psychologically damaging to him. We didn't get much of Jim in this episode, but what we did have was telling of the direction that the character's probably going to go in. He's split between wanting to find his wife, but also be there for his children at the same time, as they're even going off and looking for her themselves, so he's going to have to put them first moving forward. In terms of a premiere, this one had pretty much everything you'd want in it, so it's not only set the tone for the remainder of the season, but it's got me excited to see exactly what's going to happen in the next episode. The creatures are tormenting, something that has a completely different meaning and feel this time round. There are so many layers that it feels like are going to be explored in this season, and I can't wait. Bring on the next episode. So, there you have it, from Season 3, Episode 1, Ending Explained. If you want to see more videos on your favourite TV shows and movies broken down, then click on the card in the top corner, or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. I'll be covering the entirety of this season, so be sure to hit subscribe to catch every video on Season 3. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What did you think of the season premiere? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video, and I'll see you in the next one.